Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AADL Storytime. Super happy to be joining you as always. My name is Elizabeth, and we have some excellent stories today. So let's get settled in, and we will say hello to everyone like we usually do. So if I can see your hands. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as fast as we can. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as slow as we can. Hello. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as high as we can. Hello. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as low as we can. Hello. Couple more. Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as loud as we can. Hello! Bread and butter, marmalade and jam. Let's say hello as soft as we can. Great job, everyone. Can I see your fingers? Open them, shut them. Open them, shut them. Give a little clap, clap, clap. Open them, shut them. Open them, shut them. Lay them on your lap, lap, lap. Creep them, creepy, creepy, creep them right up to your chin, chin, chin. Open wide your little mouth, ah, but do not let them in. Shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, just like this, this, this. Roll them, roll them, roll them, roll them. Blow a little kiss. Mwah. All right, nice job, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It is time to find out what our letter of the day is, and I have that right here. And it is the letter F. We have stories today about feelings, and everyone in our stories is going to have some different feelings. They might be happy or frustrated, sad, glad, mad, scared, but they all have different feelings, and we're going to see what kind of stories we have that have these feelings in them. So those are our F feeling stories today. And before we get started on our first story, we need to take our stretch. So stretch, big out wide, big up tall. Give yourself a hug. Tap your knee. Tap your elbow. Tap your head. Tap your tummy. One more big stretch out wide. Big stretch up tall. Ah. All right. We are going to start today with a book. And this is a funny book, one of my favorites, called Leave Me Alone. And it is about a lady who just needs some space. She gets a little frustrated. That's another F word. Once there was an old woman who lived in a small village in a small house. And she lived in that small house with a very big family. Winter was coming, and that meant she had some very important knitting to do, but it wasn't getting done. Her grandchildren were very curious about her knitting. Were you supposed to hit the ball with a stick? Could you eat it? Could you make your brother eat it? Why did the ball get smaller and smaller as you chased it? The old woman was at the end of her rope. So she made her bed as neatly as she could. She swept the floorboards until they more or less shone. She drank tea from a samovar. She picked up her things in a big sack, and as she left, she shouted back, "Leave me alone." The old woman walked through the deep, dark forest. She made a fire so that she could see what she was doing. Then she sat down and she began to knit. The bear family was very curious about the light from her fire and about what she might taste like. "Leave me alone," the old woman shouted. But they didn't listen because bears don't speak English. So she picked up her sack and she left. The old woman climbed up the mountainside. It was cold, so she found a small sheltered place and she sat down and began to knit. The mountain goats were excited to have a visitor, especially one that brought snacks. "Leave me alone," the old woman shouted. But the goats were too busy fighting over the red ones, which they all agreed were the best. So the old woman packed up her sack and left. The old woman climbed higher and higher up the mountain. She reached the top and climbed onto the moon. She found a rock that was shaped like a chair. She sat down and began to knit. The little green moon men had never seen a woman before, old or otherwise. They examined her with handheld scanners that went beep boop. "Leave me alone," the old woman shouted. But the little green moon men couldn't hear her because they didn't have any ears. So she picked up her sack and left through a wormhole. The void on the other side of the wormhole was very dark and very, very quiet. She was absolutely, completely, utterly alone. It was perfect. Soon, she had no more yarn and 30 little sweaters. And she was alone. So, She put the 30 sweaters into her big sack. She swept the void until it was a nice, matte black. She had a cup of tea from her samovar. Then she picked up the sack and she left through the wormhole. When she came out on the other side, everything was right where she'd left it. And she didn't say a word. The end. Nice job, everybody. That's one of my favorites, like I said, a fun one to do. All right, let's do a little stand up so we can stretch our legs and stretch out a little bit before we move on to our next story. So if you want to go ahead and stand up, and we are going to do the pirate song. Ready? When I was one, I sucked my thumb on the day I went to sea. I jumped on board a pirate ship and the captain said to me, "Oh, you go this way, that way, forwards, backwards, over the deep blue sea." When I was two, I tied my shoe on the day I went to sea. I jumped on board a pirate ship and the captain said to me, "Oh, you go this way, that way, forwards, backwards, over the deep blue sea." When I was three, I tapped my knee on the day I went to sea. I jumped on board a pirate ship and the captain said to me, "Oh, you go this way, that way, forwards, backwards, over the deep blue sea." When I was four, I shut the door on the day I went to sea. I jumped on board a pirate ship and the captain said to me, "Oh, you go this way, that way, forwards, backwards, over the deep blue sea." When I was five, I danced and jived on the day I went to sea. I jumped on board a pirate ship and the captain said to me, "Oh, you go this way, that way, forwards, backwards, over the deep blue sea." Yay! All right, great job, everyone. Let's sit back down. We have another story today. And this one, I'm going to use the felt board for. I think we can see that. By the way, I need to move it over this way a little bit more. Okay, perfect. All righty. So this one is called Mr. Pine's Purple House. Well, Mr. Pine lived in a house on Vine Street. But there were so many houses that looked just alike on the street. They were all white and they were all the same. And Mr. Pine said to himself, "There are so many white houses all in a line. How will I know which one is mine? I know. I'll plant a little pine in front of my house, a pine tree in front of Pine's house." And sure enough, that is what he did. But the neighbors passed by and they said, "What a pretty tree!" And the next day when Mr. Pine looked out his window, what did he see? Everyone had a pine tree in front of their house, too. "Oh no," said Mr. Pine. "How can I tell which one is mine if there's all of these pines in a line?" I know. I will plant a flowering vine next to my pine." And that is what Mr. Pine did. He went to the store and he got a pretty flowering vine to put next to his pine. Flowering vine, pine tree, pine's house, vine street. See, that's me. The neighbors passed by all day and said, "Ah, what a pretty flowery vine." And the next morning, Mr. Pine looked out his window and, oh no, every house had a flowering vine. Oh, how can I tell which one is mine? All the houses in a line, green trees, all pine, and next to each tree is a flowering vine. Mr. Pine thought and thought, and finally he said, "I know. I will paint my house. I will paint my house purple. I like purple." So off he went to the paint store, and he got lots of cans of purple paint. And then he put up his ladder, and he mixed his paint, and he climbed his ladder to the top of his house, and squish, 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 squish went the brush, and Mr. Pine painted until his house was entirely, purple. Wow. Well, the neighbors all walked by Mr. Pine's house, and they came to see, and they said, "This is such a pretty purple house. What a good idea. I will paint my house." "No, no, no," said Mr. Pine. "Not 50 purple houses all in a line on Vine Street." "Don't worry," said his neighbors. "You are right. I want a brown house," said one neighbor. "I think for me the right color is red," said another neighbor. "For me, I've always dreamed of a turquoise house," said Mr. Pine's neighbor across the street. "And for me, a blue house," said his neighbor down the block. "And for me, a yellow house," said his neighbor down the street. And now there are brown and red and blue and teal and yellow houses all on Vine Street. But there is only one purple house, and that is Mr. Vine's house. The end. Nice job, everybody. That is a fun one to tell. I love those felts. It's really fun, too, when you can line them up on the big storyboard at work. So, excellent job. We are going to move right into our next story. This might be one that you've heard before. It's about maybe if you're kind of scared before you go to bed, this is something you can do to maybe make yourself a little less scared. And this is called Go Away, Big Green Monster. Big Green Monster has 2 big yellow eyes, a long bluish greenish nose, a big red mouth with sharp white teeth, 2 little squiggly ears, scraggly purple hair, and a big scary green face. But you don't scare me, So go away, scraggly purple hair. Go away, two little squiggly ears. Go away, long bluish greenish nose. Go away, big green face. Go away, big red mouth. Go away, sharp white teeth. Go away, two big yellow eyes. Go away, big green monster. And don't come back until I say so. The end. Nice job, everybody. All right, let's just take a moment to stretch out. Stretch your arms out wide. Stretch your arm across. Stretch your other arm across. Open them. Tilt to the side. Tilt to the other side. Reach all the way forward. Give your fingers a little wiggle. Reach all the way up. Wave your hands. And reach all the way down. All right, we have one more story today that I am excited to share with you. I need the board one more time. This one is called Sausages, and it starts off, oh, I lost one of my little props. 1 second. Did he fall? Can I take him out? There he is. Starts out when one day there was a woodcutter named John, and he was walking through the forest and he found a little elf stuck on a rose thorn. And he said, "Oh, you poor little thing, let me help you." And John reached out and he helped the elf pop off of the thorn. "Oh, thank you," said the elf. "In return for your kindness, I will grant you 3 magical wishes." And he shook his wings, and as he flew off, he said, "Be careful what you wish for." Well, John was so excited. He could not believe his luck. He rushed home to tell his wife, Martha, the good news. "Martha, Martha, we are so lucky. We will be rich for the rest of our lives. We must sit down and we must think very hard, and we must choose our wishes very carefully." So John and Martha sat by the fire and they began to think of what they should wish for. Oh, it was so difficult to choose. They sighed and thought and sighed and thought and sighed and thought some more. After several hours, John felt his tummy starting to rumble. "Oh, Martha," he said, "I am starving. I wish we had some sausages." Whoops! And with a the sausages flew out of the fireplace and landed thwomp on the floor in front of John and Martha. "But you foolish man!" cried Martha. "You've wasted a whole wish. Think of the amazing things we could have gotten, and instead we just have sausages. Oh, I wish these silly sausages were stuck to your nose." Uh-oh, you know what happened then. The sausages shot up into the air, whoosh, and sure enough, they stuck to John's nose. Oh, 2 wishes were gone and nothing but sausages, and the sausages were stuck to John's nose. "For goodness sake, Martha," he cried, "get these sausages off my nose." Well, Martha tugged at the sausages. She pulled at the sausages and she tugged harder. But no matter what she did, she could not get the sausages off of John's nose. So she let go and ooh, John fell onto the floor with a thud. "Oh, my poor, poor nose," he said, "it's so sore." Well, Martha took a deep breath. She said, "My dear, we've been through good times together and bad times together. It is silly for these wishes to make us so upset with one another." She took a deep breath and she said, "I wish that these sausages would fall off of John's nose." And sure enough, they did. John gave Martha a big hug. "Well, my dear, we've lost our chance to be rich, but we have each other, and we have a very good dinner." And far away, a little elf laughed. The end. Nice job, everyone. That is another one of my favorites. So many good stories today. Thank you all so much for listening. It's always so fun to share stories with you. And as always, just remember, Storytime is on AADL TV every weekday morning at 10 a.m. And we have the Saturday show, which is our special variety show on Saturday mornings. So lots to tune into, and we'll be doing this for the foreseeable future. So there's always going to be new things to watch and new faces to see and all that. So remember to tune in. Thanks for listening today, and we will see you next time.